Peace. It's me, Furious Black. I'm not a religious person. I'm more of a spiritual person. My perception or my idea of spirituality is mentalism, which goes back to Hermetic principles. But this video is not about the Hermetic principles. This video is about the infiltration and the globalists that have been working with the Catholic Church from the time of antiquity. Most of us have been so into, getting material things such as money and the things that those fiat debt notes can provide for us. So people think that this whole thing is about Democrat versus Republican. It's actually not. It goes back years, man. You go to King James 1611 Bible and see the preface where the translators tell you that they're against the Pope and the Catholic Church, which push ignorance and darkness. So this guy right here, Dr. Taylor Marshall, which I watch all the time. I watch a number of things. I don't just, I don't believe that, so I'm not gonna watch it because he's a Catholic and a Protestant or an Israelite or a Muslim. I don't really give a fuck about none of that shit. I'm only here for truth, reality, right? So he gets into the Catholics' connection to Joe Biden. If y'all never read the 1611 preface, the translated from 1611 King James Bible, I say you go do that. You can find it online. You don't have to buy the book to read it. You know what I'm saying? So let's look at what he's talking about here.
I gave you the last paragraph. Today, I'm bringing you back to the very beginning, the opening paragraph, which is in response to the interview by Marco Tassade to Vigano. Now, Vigano...
Now, if y'all want to go back to his videos before, and he got another video that he dropped last night, you can also go and check that out. He's exposing the Catholic Church, and he's been doing it for over a year, maybe 2 years now. And their connection to pedophilia. This pedophile shit is huge. It goes back. It's in the Bible. It's in all the books. It's in all of it. It comes from Satanism. And Satanism isn't what you think it is. It's just the lower vibrational. It's just a lower vibration, dealing with the red chakra and people giving that thing energy, sexual energy, hunger, anything that fulfills the flesh.
Begins the interview with his opening answer. He says this: the question you pose...
Hold on, let me go into this real quick. Vigano, this guy, is exposing this guy. And the Pope before this guy had got ran out because he was getting rid of pedophiles. And the Catholic Church was not having that. So he left the Catholic Church and he's in hiding right now because you already know the Catholic Church don't play with they shit. They start killing motherfuckers. So And he was the guy that wrote a letter to President Trump, I think 2-3 months ago, talking about good and evil, which this is not about Democrat versus Republican. This is about good and evil. Once you get to that understanding of what the globalists are doing, who they are, how they run, how they operate, you'll be able to see it clearly in the news, the TV shows, the movies, um, um, your schools, what the schools are teaching your children. They're teaching them to be subservient, not to be, So let's get into this.
Dear Tassadi, requires a well-articulated response. But first and foremost, it requires serious reflection and a clear recognition of who is responsible for creating the conditions that have led to the current situation. Now, I should have read this beforehand, but Marco Tassadi asked him, Your Excellency, you served as Apostolic Nuncio in the United States from 2011 to 2016, and so you know this country very well. The Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, claims to be Catholic, but he's in favor of abortion until the 9th month and same-sex marriage. Is it possible to be Catholic and, on an official level, that is, through political and publicly manifest choices, to oppose the teaching of the church, not on secondary elements, but on vital issues? So, this interview already is set up as an interview about America. It's an interview about Joe Biden. It's an interview about Trump and the election and everything that's for stake here. So Vigano opens up and he says, first of all, we need to have a reflection on how we got to this place in the United States of America. And again, for those of you that are new or you don't know who Archbishop Vigano is, Archbishop Vigano was the nuncio, what you might call an ambassador, to the U.S. from the Vatican, from Rome, from 2011 to 2016. So he was here under the pontificate of Pope Benedict XVI and then Pope Francis. He's seen both pontificates. He also exposed a major bank scandal in 2010, 2011. You can read all about that in my book, Infiltration, which you see on the left side of your screen. But he also blew the whistle and uncovered all the scandals and the lies and the cover-ups that were in orbit around ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. Theodore McCarrick was the most powerful churchman in America. He was the Cardinal of Washington, D.C., and he was an embezzler, a child molester, and he had a couple beach houses.
Oh, sorry. I meant to go over some more of the historical stuff through the 1600s and how the British and the Catholic Church was implementing new things into America. But I think I'm going to leave that for maybe tomorrow or next week. We have to get people up to speed. So
Catholicism was doing all sorts of ungodly, sacrilegious things there. So Vigano is a major player. He is, in a way, a linchpin between the Vatican and the United States, and he is extremely critical of the American hierarchy and extremely critical of Pope Francis, who he often refers to as simply Bergoglio. Now, here is where
Bergoglio is like devil or something like that. He had explained it earlier a couple months ago. Kind of forgot what it was. But it's like devil or deceiver or something like that.
Shares a memory of a conversation that he had with Pope Francis. And I'd like to read to you the entire paragraph because there's some important details in here. And then we'll do a little bit of analysis. All right, here we go. Archbishop Vigano says, quote, "It was September 22nd, 2015. The day of Pope Francis's arrival in Washington, D.C., on the occasion of his apostolic journey to the United States. During the dinner at the Nunciature," now let me just pause here. When the Pope comes to America, the guy who's basically in charge and overseeing it is the Apostolic Nuncio, which would have been Archbishop Vigano. Vigano is the point man, And as you can see, the Pope is staying in the nunciature. He's staying where Archbishop Vigano lives. The nunciature is almost like an embassy, all right? Vigano says, during the dinner at the nunciature, which was attended by several members of the papal entourage, I told Pope Francis, I believe that in the history of the United States, there's never been an administration with so many Catholics at the top. Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of State John Kerry, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and all three of them ostentatiously profess to be Catholic, pro-abortion, and in favor of homosexual marriage and gender ideology in defiance of church teaching. How do you explain this contradiction? Vigano says, and I added, a Jesuit, Father Robert Frederick Drennan, S.J., from Boston College, held the post of Democratic U.S. Representative for the state of Massachusetts and Washington for 10 years, from 1971 to 1981. Father Drennan was one of the most strenuous advocates and promoters of abortion. I'm going to pause here. Here we have a Jesuit priest who was a representative who was supporting abortion while being a Jesuit, while being a priest. What? So Vigano is asking Pope Francis, how can it be that at this high point of Catholic representation in the American government, that all the Catholics, it seems, at the top offices are supporting abortion, unnatural marriage, gender ideology, etc.? And he asked the Pope, how do you explain this contradiction? Vigano then recalls, quote, Pope Francis did not react in the slightest, just as he did not react on June 23rd, 2013, when, answering one of his specific questions, I revealed to him who McCarrick really was, end quote. So here, Archbishop Vigano is showing us, if Archbishop Vigano is telling the truth, a lot of people, by the way, think Archbishop Vigano is a bag full of lies, and we shouldn't trust Vigano one bit. There are lots of people out there. Yesterday, Sorab in New York, he said that Vigano is a tiresome crank or something like that. There are a lot of people who think Vigano is bogus. I think Vigano is legit. V is for Vigano. I think Vigano tells the truth because he came out with a lot of big allegations in 2018, and everything that we've learned since 2018 has come to pass or been revealed as true, including McCarrick's involvement in China and the Chinese deal with Pope Francis.
So, like I said, globalists, right? When you look at their footprint, they have a hand in Iran, they have a hand in Saudi Arabia, they have a hand in China, they have a hand in North Korea, they have a hand in Australia. They're connected to something that most people don't think of, but I'm not going to bring them up because I don't want them in my algorithm. So this guy is helping to expose the globalists, deep state, Illuminati, the cabal, Satanists, right? One of the greatest tricks the devil did was trick people into believing he didn't exist, right? So that they can implement their plans through the mediums that I've already addressed. Vigano, this guy, was exposing the stuff that the Catholic Church has been doing, right? It's important that we get a full grasp of this. You know, you can't look at the forest and only see one tree. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work like that. You can't live on the earth and not understand the connections between people. They didn't talk about 6 degrees separation for no reason, right? You do something to somebody, it's gonna trickle down through the world. That's just how it works.
Just getting re-upped, which is way bad news. Double thumbs down, no good. So, Archbishop Vigano, I believe, is telling the truth.
Me too.
I do believe, unfortunately, I fear that Pope Francis wants Biden to be the next president of the United States of America. Now,
and look at the stuff Biden has already said. He's going to raise taxes. He's going to make people wear masks. He's going to implement the New World Order, like Bush was talking about, like Obama was talking about, like Mayor Lightfoot was talking about. These people want to control your life. They want to control your life.
There's another place. I'm going to go down a little bit. Here he starts to talk about how the Second Vatican Council, which ended in 1965, led to the sexual and cultural revolutions of 1968. He believes that there's a connection there, that it's not just an accidental sequence of events. He believes that the church became flimsy, became soft, became unclear, and because of that, culture degraded almost immediately.
I mean, see, the future proves past, right? Look at 1965. Look at the hippie revolution, the integration of weed and drugs, the destruction of family, crime, schools, schools not teaching people to be critical thinkers or how to even assess fact from fiction, fact from opinion. In the 1970s, how they went from the gold-backed dollar to the silk to fiat money. You can just see the connections. I mean, sometimes you don't need a paper trail. You could just look at what's going on now. 50% of people are getting divorced. This shit is not rocket science.
I'm going to come back later today and do another live stream on that topic of the relationship of Vatican II with cultural decline, cultural revolution, and Marxism, as explained by Vigano in this interview. As I stated yesterday, there's so much in this interview, I can't do one show. So I'm going to do several shows, probably 3 or 4, highlighting portions like I am today on the Biden portions. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be on with Matt Gaspers, and we're going to do a global analysis of the entire interview and give you the high points. So right now, I'm just being a little bit more particular and specific. But the second quote that I wanted to share with you is where Francis talks about Biden. I'm sorry, where Vigano talks about Biden and Francis as involved in deep state, deep church, and as subversive. So Marco Tassati asked Archbishop Vigano this question: Your Excellency, don't you think that this correspondence between the deep state and the deep church is also confirmed in relations with China? Carlo Maria Vigano, the Archbishop, answers, the Chinese communist dictatorship is courted by both the deep state and the deep church. I'm going to pause here. The deep state is the idea that there are hidden evil leaders that are behind the scenes pulling levers that affect our government in the United States or any government that are not elected officials. This is the deep state. The people who control things from behind the scenes. Relates to the media, it relates to the banks, it relates to the stock market, it relates to Hollywood, everything, right? It's trying to create a social revolution or a certain culture that conforms to secularist humanist ideas. The same is true of a deep church. Vigano's big on talking about the deep church. There are people in the church who are seeking to infiltrate and change what Catholicism is. Of course, Catholicism can never change. From the year AD 30.
So now, when you go back into history, they will tell you the first pope was, Peter or something like that. Peter or Paul, one of the two. I don't really remember right now. But when you learn the history of the church from the Catholic Church, which means universal, and the relationship to the Israelites and the Knights Templars and the history the Israelites went through and how they, was losing power in all the captivities, I will agree with him. The Catholic Church doesn't change. It's just like people saying, oh, the Constitution can be suspended. No. Your power, your rights can never be suspended because they're not given to you by no man. They're given to you by the universe. They're given to you by the same thing that governs the trees and the animals. So anybody that's trying to take away your rights will say things are changing. And that is incorrect because nothing changes. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing changes. Ever.
1983 to 2020, Catholicism has not changed one iota. There might be people who tell you that, but they're wrong. What happened is we had algae, bacteria, goo get past the filter, and we've experienced an infiltration. We're living in the moment of an infiltration right now, and there's a deep church working inside with a plot to destroy the church from within. So vegan.
And I don't think it's just to destroy the church. It's to destroy people's morality, right? And this goes back to the Hermetic principles, vibrating on the left side of things, of polarity.
Says the Chinese communist dictatorship is courted by both the deep state and the deep church. Joe Biden is Joe Biden is as subservient to the economic and political interests of Beijing as Jorge Mario Bergoglio.
Now look how old this guy. Look how old this guy is. You think he don't know? You think he hasn't been around since the 70s, the 80s, the 60s to see the grading of mankind? Come on, man. We got to do better.
It doesn't matter if human rights are systematically violated in China. If Catholics faithful to the Catholic Church are persecuted, or if a hateful dictatorship massacres millions of innocent people by planning mass abortion, the interests of the globalist agenda prevail even over the evidence of the horrors carried out by the Chinese dictatorship. Then Vigano says, I would add, the active support carried out by the Jesuits since the time when McCarrick went to China to prepare for the famous agreement that would be later ratified by the Vatican under the Bergoglio pontificate is significant. The agreement aroused considerable perplexity even in the secular press, and he goes on to give examples. Look, here is the deal. Here's the nexus. Here's the connection. You have Cardinal McCarrick. He's a cardinal of the Roman Church. He states that a prominent Italian gentleman came to McCarrick and said, hey, we need to get Bergoglio elected as the Pope. And in 5 years, we could change everything. That's what McCarrick said. Bergoglio is elected. I talk about how this is related to the St. Gallen Mafia in my book, Infiltration. If you want to get caught up on all these details in the history, please Read Infiltration. Bergoglio's Pope. McCarrick is a dirty, rotten scoundrel molesting kids and running some kind of a sex ring out of his beach houses. He's under some kind of restrictions under Benedict XVI through Vigano.
Now, did they not say that Kamala Harris was protecting the Catholic Church and the pedophiles in California? Do y'all see the connections now? This is not about Republican versus Democrat. This is about good and evil. Your rights being taken away, or you want to keep your rights. Okay, Trump says things you don't like. Trump may not be the personality that you want in the White House. Who gives a fuck? Who cares what you think? It's about, or who cares how he talks? It's about the actions that he is implementing, right? Just like they say in February, oh, you know, Trump, he downplayed the virus. He didn't do what he was telling people it wasn't as bad. But in January, he was stopping people from coming from China. Then the next month, Europe. He was doing it according to the information that he was getting. Remember at that time, China was pushing propaganda videos of people dying in the streets. Y'all forgot? See, that's the thing. Ignorant people have no memory. They have no memory of the situations that happen to lead to the effect or the outcome of the totality of the situation. Memory is key to knowledge and wisdom. That's why older people are so wise in what they do, because they lived it. They've seen things like that before. They've talked to people that have gone through something that you might have gone through in your 20s.
In his predecessor, Francis lifts those restrictions and sends McCarrick, the American cardinal from D.C. Let me repeat that. He sends McCarrick, the dirty cardinal, American from D.C., to China to work out a deal with the Vatican whereby the underground faithful church is persecuted and pushed out, while the above ground Marxist communist hierarchy that was appointed and serves the secular atheistic government is recognized by the Vatican. Who brokered the deal? An American cardinal named McCarrick. Vigano is onto this. And this whole thing stinks. This smells. This is rotten. By the way, who was the president when all this was going down?
Obama.
Barack Obama. Who was his vice president? Joe Biden. So you've got this DC network. You've got globalism. You've got you've got China becoming powerful.
Let's get this correct, man. We don't have to control Saudi Arabia, North Africa, China, Iran for these people to live their lives. We can be an example in America. We can be an example, a light, a beacon to these countries of the right way to be towards women, towards children, towards family. Why do we have to go fight wars in order to show people how to do stuff? You know, that's the same thing as when you have a child or whatever. Oh, you don't have kids? I don't give a fuck. You don't beat your kid into submission to living right. You teach them the way to live. You show through example.
and getting recognition, moral recognition, the right to appoint bishops, things that Henry VIII only wished he could accomplish with the Pope. Pope Francis gives them everything in China, brokered by McCarrick. And so Vigano is saying there is an intersection here with Joe Biden, McCarrick, and Pope Francis. And it relates to Eastern Europe. It relates to China. It relates to a lot of scandals.
You know, there's a scripture that says when the wicked rule, the people mourn. You know, just look at the world, man. Protests, fires, earthquakes, governments are falling. Just look at it. Choose for yourself. Choose this day what you will be, righteous or not righteous. Is Cardi B your example of what a woman should be?
And what they want to do, I'm going to close with this. I'll come back later today. What Pope Francis really wants is to further ratify this East-West alliance of China and America, mediated by Pope Francis.
Now, let me get something else, because I think y'all think I'm playing when I say these things. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it. Let's see. It's only like 6 minutes. You know, it's only 6 minutes. You know.
And we're going to do that again right now. Li Mengyan is the virologist who says she has evidence about where this pandemic actually came from. We're happy to have her on tonight. Doctor, thanks so much.
I'm not going to go over this video. I'm not going to watch it. But go watch this video. She's from China. She says this thing came from China and it's man-made. Connections made. So with that, man, I'm Furious Black. I appreciate you watching. I love everybody. I'm about peace and truth and freedom and justice. Yeah, that might be some of the talking points that the more science push, but these are good characteristics to have. So with that, I'm Furious Black. Peace.